also would not go. It's hard.
Yes.
I need to paste and then we'll wait for a couple of minutes, Prabhuji.
Sure.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to Bhakti Sangha. This evening, we are very fortunate to have His Grace Sureswar Shyam Prabhu to enlighten us on the topic of Srimad Bhagavatam summaries. It's 4th canto, 24th chapter. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for taking out your time this evening and enlightening us on the topic of Srimad Bhagavatam. I now hand over to you. We are eagerly waiting to hear your interactive session, Prabhu, as usual. Over to you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. So we'll start with prayers and then review chapter 24 of 4th canto. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurulmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadanti Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vita Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So this 24th chapter is titled as, I'll share my screen, is titled as the chanting the song sung by Lord Shiva. So in this chapter, we will clearly know who is Lord Shiva. He is the Gunavatar of the Lord. We can say he is the Lord, expansion of the Lord. He is the greatest devotee of the Lord. He is willing to take so many roles to serve the Lord. And he is a personality who directs devotees, who directs personalities onto the path of bhakti. So, lot of attributes are given in this chapter, and in one of the purports, Prabhupada writes that I'll just read that. It's nicely written. Who is Lord Shiva and who is Krishna? So Prabhupada writes in this purport. I forgot which that one. So Krishna is uh, Krishna is Bhakta Vatsala, and what do you think Lord Shiva could be? Krishna is Bhakta Vatsala, and Lord Shiva is, yeah, I got it. So Lord Shiva is,
Ashutosh easily pleased, and he's a great Param Vaishnava, who is greatest of all Vaishnavas.
yes, is the greatest of all Vaishnavas. Prabhupada elaborates that on a lot in this chapter, and he says that mm, what he says. Uh, he says that there is a sampradaya, Rudra sampradaya, and Vishnu Swami is propagating that sampradaya, right? So, so like that, in this verse 26, Prabhupada writes here, yeah, here, Lord Shiva becomes very pleased with Prachetas because generally Lord Shiva is a protector of pious persons and persons of gentle behavior. Being very much pleased with the princess, he began to speak as follows. So, in this purport, Prabhupada writes, who is Lord Shiva? So, here he says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu or Krishna is known as Bhakta Vatsala. And herein we find Lord Shiva described as Dharma Vatsala. Of course, the word Dharma Vatsala refers to a person who lives according to religious principles. But here Lord Shiva is the protector of religious principles. So, like that, if you see, if you want more description, if you want to know more about Lord Shiva and how he takes many different forms to serve the Lord. So, I was just reviewing one chapter in this in third canto. Third canto, when Brahmaji does his prayers and he starts his creation process. First, he creates the Kumaras. Brahma creates from his mind, Manasa, or from his different bodily parts. So Brahma creates the Kumaras, like we have seen the chapter before, where the four Kumaras, the conversation between Prithu Maharaj and four Kumaras. So Brahmaji creates. So in the beginning, Brahma created four great sages named Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumar, and he wanted them to do the progeny creation. So he said, now generate progeny. But they were, attracted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So initially they were Brahmavadis. Slowly they became great devotees of the Lord. And now when the Kumaras did not wanted to procreate, Brahmaji became anger. Brahmaji, became very angry, but he could control himself, remembering the Supreme Lord. But as part of that process, between the eyebrows, a child mixed blue and red was immediately generated, and he started crying. The child profusely started crying. So that's why he was known as Rudra, the, the personality who cried a lot. Right here it said, "You shall be called by the name Rudra by the people because you have so anxiously cried." And now we see so many names. We see Sadashiva, Shiva, Rudra, and now here we see uh, Rudra takes 11 other uh, avatars for to help Brahmaji to create, and where that 11 avatars, the 11 forms of Rudra is there, here it is given in this verse, different places. And he has now 11 wives called Rudranis, and the different names of Rudra are given here, right? The 11 names of Rudra: Manyu, Manu, Mahi, Nasa, Mahan, Shiva, Ritva, Rutvaja, Ura, Gretha, Bhava, Kala, Vama, Deva, and Dhrita, Prata. Like that, the 11 names of Rudra are given here. So Brahmaji, he wants to create, then he starts with Kumaras and Rudra. That's why there we see in the one of the previous chapter, it said the Kumaras are elder to Rudra. Hmm. So like that, a lot of details about Lord Shiva are given in this chapter, and the chapter is titled as chanting the song sung by Lord Shiva, but it's also called Rudra Gita. And here this chapter starts. We have seen in the last chapter that Prithu Maharaj, he retires and then he goes back to Godhead. His son, eldest son, Vijit Sava, he was a great personality, and he had another name called Antardhana that was given by Indra so that he can give him the power that he can appear, disappear, that kind of aspect. So this Vijitsava Antardhana, then I will go to this sheet so that we can cover few verses. The first few verses here it is given. Prithu had this son Vijitsava, and Vijitsava had two wives, Shikandini and Nabaswati. Right? From Nabaswati he got this son Havirdhana. And then Havirdhana we got 6 sons. He got 6 sons. And then eldest was Barishat, also called Prachina Barishat. Right? He has few names, and we all know that he was expert in Karma Kanda. He was, wherever he grow, he would put the kusha grass facing eastward, and he would do a lot of Karma Kanda activities. He begot 10 sons in the womb of Satadruti. 10 sons were combinedly called as Prachetas. So now we can know, instead of giving the individual names of the 10 sons, they were collectively called as Prachetas. Anybody would like to say why they were just called as Prachetas instead of individual names? Just some guess.
Because they emerged from water.
Much from water?
Like after the austerities?
No? So before austerities only, they were called Prachetas.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
Yeah, here one year, Maharaj Barishit, henceforth known as Prachini Barhi. So he had multiple names. So it is like these verses are flowing like that, where he married his Shrutadruti and begot 10 children in the womb of Shrutadruti. Yeah, here it is given. All of them were equally endowed with religiosity, and all of them were known as Prachetas. So what happens is, when we have to collectively, if they have a common aspect collectively, like the Kumaras, right? We generally say 4 Kumaras, but their names are also given. But when their intention to do an activity is collectively the same, then sometimes these kind of one name is used. So here it's saying all of them were equally endowed with religiosity, and all of them were known as Prachetas. So that's why they were called Prachetas. I don't know the exact meaning of Prachetas, but they had this equality, right, towards religiosity. So when the king got the 10 sons, he requested them to perform austerities. So why a king's son has to perform austerities? Because it is given in detail in the purports. Prabhupada ji writes also, because they have to, when they retire, they have to go to the forest. So they need to know how to lead life in the later stages also. And in the beginning also, they need to learn, right, how to be austere, how when they are austere, how they know how to control their senses, so that they can rule properly. It is said that a person who is sense controlled actually achieves a lot, because he is not wasting time on so many other things. He is very, very focused. So like that, his father recommended them, please go to the forest, practice austerities and penance for 10,000 years. So this pastime happened in Satya Yuga. So I'll try to verify where I read it in the purports. So this pastime happened long time back, right? Not in any of the current yugas, because we know the lifespan is shorter in the current yugas. So they performed austerity for a long time. So here, here Prabhupada ji writes in purport 14, here only, right? In purport 14, Prabhupada writes, since they performed austerities for 10,000 years, this incident took place in Satya Yuga, when people used to live for 100,000 years. It is also significant that that by their austerity they worship the master of austerity, Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one wants to perform austerities and penances in order to attain the supreme goal, one must attain the favor of Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this was performed in that age. So that time, when they wanted to perform these austerities and they were heading towards the forest, they met Lord Shiva, who out of great mercy instructed them about the absolute truth. All the sons of Prachina Barhi meditated upon the instructions, chanting and worshipping them with great care and attention. So they got the instructions from Lord Shiva. That's called Rudra Gita. And Lord Shiva was merciful towards them and gave that song, gave them that song to meditate upon. So then Vidura becomes curious why this chapter unfolds and why Rudra Gita is given in detail is because of Vidura's question. Vidura asked Maitreya, my dear Brahmana, why did the Prachetas met Lord Shiva on the way? Please tell me how the meeting happened, how Lord Shiva became very pleased with them, and how he instructed them. Certainly such talks are important, and I wish that you please be merciful upon me and describe them. So because sometimes, Maitreya is explaining in a summary format, moving on to answer a lot of questions that Vidurji has asked. And there is an exclusive chapter in, I think, in third canto, we see questions by Vidura. Vidura asks so many questions, like here, further inquiries by Vidura. If you count, there are lots of questions in that chapter. So Maitreya is answering questions of Vidura. In between, he asks to elaborate. That's what here we see in this. Here we see he is asking to elaborate. Why did Lord Shiva appear? So all of a sudden, why did Lord Shiva appear? Because it is said, why and how did Lord Shiva appear? Because they were going to the forest and Shiva appeared. Lord Shiva appeared and gave them the instructions. So Vidurji is curious, how did Lord Shiva appear? They were going to the forest. So here he says, oh, best of the Brahmanas, it is very difficult for the living entities engaged within the material body to have personal contact with Lord Shiva. Even great sages who have no material attachment do not contact him, despite they're always being observed in meditation. So it is very difficult to get association of Lord Shiva. He is always behind, helping devotees who are already on the track of bhakti, or who are austere, who are pious, right? So like that. So he is asking the question, and now Maitreya elaborates. This is where he shows how Lord Shiva is very, very merciful. I'll see if Prabhupada's purport. Yeah. So here Prabhupada ji writes, here in verse 15, Prabhupada writes that, so here it is clearly stated that the 10 sons of Maharaj Prachina Bhari were favored by the appearance of Lord Shiva, who out of great kindness gave them instructions regarding the execution of austerities. Lord Shiva actually became the spiritual master of the 10 sons. And in turn, his disciples took his words so seriously that simply by meditating upon his instructions, they became perfect. So that when they came back, they can perfectly execute their services. At the same time, focus on or meditate on the Supreme Lord. So this is how Lord Shiva became merciful, and these prachetas started going towards Himalayas. That's what Prabhupada writes in the purport. They were started going towards Himalayas. Then they see a lake, a nice lake, which had so many auspicious things. Here it is, While traveling, the prachetas happened to see a great reservoir of water, which seemed almost as big as the ocean. The water of this lake was so calm and quiet that it seemed like the mind of a great soul. And its inhabitants, the aquatics, appeared very peaceful. So that's what we see. They saw a great lake which was very calm and peaceful. In the purport, Prabhupada writes that it is closer to Himalayas. So this lake, let me see. So if it is, yeah, this lake is closer to Himalayas. That's where Lord Shiva appeared. And few more description of the lake is given. So when there is, a good things, like good things manifest, right? When it is dirt, we see, crows or ants or something like that. We can see the bad smell, something like that manifest, right? Here in this lake, there were very, very different kinds of lotuses. Some were different colors, different forms, so many things, right? And these lotuses, these bumblebees were humming around, and the saffron, from the lotus flower would fly around, and it created a very pleasant atmosphere, very scenic atmosphere, right? In that, then they heard some drums, various drums and kettle drums, and Lord Shiva appeared with all his most of his associates. So let's see this picture. Prabhuji had nice picture here. Yeah, if you see here, so Lord Shiva appeared from the lake, and you see prachetas with folded hands offering obeisances to Lord Shiva. So this is a huge chapter actually, 79 verses. So first 15 verses, the summary of a high level summary of this chapter is, first 15 verses explain the genealogical line of Prithu, and then that's what we are seeing. The prachetas meet Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva uh, recites Rudra Gita. So this Rudra Gita, that which Lord Shiva recites, was given by Lord Brahma to Lord Shiva. Not only was given by Brahmaji during the creation process to all the Prajapatis. Right? Lord Shiva is one of the Prajapatis. So that's what we saw in previous 3rd canto, 11th or 12th chapter. So the Rudra avatar expands into 11. Right? They create a lot of progeny, right? So that how they can act, how they can be peaceful while being passionate. So Lord Brahma gives this Rudra Gita to all the Prajapatis, like Bhrugu, and few names are mentioned. We will see that Lord Shiva keeps in his heart, and then he gives that Rudra Gita to the Prachetas, and he says how carefully and mindfully and peacefully you have to chant this Rudra Gita, and he says what is the phala shruti, right, of reciting these Rudra Gita. So here, like that, we see the Prachetas now have come to the lake reservoir, water body, we can say. And we have seen how Lord Shiva has manifested from the reservoir. And one question, what is the color of Lord Shiva?
Blue, Prabhuji.
Blue. Okay. Any other
But
guesses?
Neelakanta, he says blue throat, but yeah.
Yeah. It's given here in the next verse. I was trying to hide. He is the color of molten gold, like our Lord Chaitanya. But I've seen, you can verify this. Maybe like I've seen in this previously, right here, in this chapter, Lord Shiva, here in this creation of four Kumaras. So we have to be careful, who is being mentioned, like which form of Lord Shiva is being mentioned. Here it was saying Lord Shiva was kind of, let me see here. Somewhere it was saying a different color. So here I'm checking. So it was, yeah, see, and a child mixed blue and red was immediately generated. So blue and red.
Blue and red and
Maybe
golden also. Okay.
blue and red means maybe gold. So we have to just verify. Maybe different forms of Lord Shiva are there and their colors are different. But here, Lord Shiva, um, he's given as golden, and he has that Neelakanta, right? His throat was bluish, and he had three eyes, which looked very merciful upon his devotees. He was accompanied by many musicians who were glorifying him. As soon as the Prachetas saw Lord Shiva, they immediately offered their obeisances in great amazement and fell down at the lotus feet of the Lord. So this is what, when we want to do something, definitely we will get the blessings of the Lord. But only it depends on how hungry we are. A person who wants to know something, right? He is hungry for that thing. Then in material world also, depending upon our guna and karma, we will get it, right? So here also the Lord, within our heart, He is seeing, what are our desires, right? He knows. He is the super soul. So He is immediately, bless the prachetas with the presence, with the audience. He blessed with the audience of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is Dharma Vatsala. He is a protector of pious people. So now here it is said, right? Lord Shiva said, "You are all sons of King Prachina Barhi, and I wish all good fortune to you. I also know what you are going to do, and therefore I am visible to you just to show my mercy upon you." So you see, Lord Shiva knew, because it is said here in this chapter itself, why do pure devotees, they have that personal communication with the Lord, because they are also on that platform of the Lord, right? They are on the same platform on the Lord, so they are able to communicate. So here Lord Shiva can know what the prachetas were up to and what they were willing to do, right? And he immediately appeared and he is blessing them. So now slowly Rudra Gita manifests, and Lord Shiva says one thing here, I think in 24 verse. So before he starts, he says, no, in 44. There's a nice verse in 44. We'll go there. But now Lord Shiva, he has a small conversation with them, and in 33 verse onwards, so he says here, if you see, now I shall chant one mantra which is not only transcendental, pure, and auspicious, but is the best prayer for anyone who is aspiring to attain the ultimate goal of life. When I chant this mantra, please hear it carefully and attentively. So here again, we have seen last time why, when the conversation between Prachetas and Lord Shiva is happening, why Maitreya Muni is coming in between and talking something, right? We see this happening in any of the discussions. If when Kumaras were talking, we see Maitreya coming in between. So we have seen last time, right? We have seen that they want to give a picture, because to see the emotions of both Lord Shiva and Prachetas. Now, how can Sukadeva Goswami present that aspect? So he has to introduce another personality who can see their both emotions, right? So now that's why we will see here, right? When that aspect have to come for to present the emotions of the both personalities, right? Lord Shiva and the Prachetas here. So Maitreya Muni comes and presents that emotions. That's how Sukadeva Goswami scripts these things, right? So here he says, out of his causeless mercy, the exalted personality Lord Shiva, a great devotee of Lord Narayan. See, Shiva is a great devotee of Narayan. Shiva is a great devotee of Lord Sri Ramchandra, right? So the personalities' names may be different, but for them it is one and the same. It continued to speak to the king's sons who were standing with folded hands. See, now both Lord Shiva and Prachetas to represent their pleasure or their emotions or their postures. Maitreya Muni is coming and representing that. Right? So, Priti Vilasini Mataji, Lord Shiva is a devotee of Lord Ram, right? Okay. So, Mataji might come back. Okay. So, anybody knows like Lord Shiva is the greatest devotee of Lord Ramchandra, right?
Correct, Prabhuji. Yeah, that's what he chants the mantras about Lord Rama. I heard also.
Oh, okay. Yes. So, from now, the Rudra Gita starts. Actually, I wanted to do in a different way of recite the important verses, and I didn't practice properly of those recitations. So I'll just read the English. But the verses are very, very awesome with nice meter and all. I was trying to practice from, I'll send that link. I was trying to practice what Gauranga Darshan Prabhu did it in his summary classes. Right? So Rudra, Lord Shiva, describes the song to the Prachetas. It is broken down into four parts. So how it is broken down into four parts is we will see. And interestingly, one stark difference we see when the prayers happen or when devotee glorify the Supreme Lord, they glorify from the lotus feet, right? But here Lord Shiva glorifies from the lotus face, goes to lotus feet, and then he says, lotus feet is very, very critical. You can attain the lotus feet through bhakti yoga. You can get bhakti from a devotee, from a Vaishnava, right? And then he says this Vaishnava Sangha is very important. And if you don't have this Vaishnava Sangha, what happens? That is the essence of the prayer. The essence of the prayer. In that, he sandwiches the great beauty of Lord Krishna and Vishnu. So in this, he nicely puts. So the first part of the prayer is where, so our standard prayers include how can we purify ourselves? How can we say do Mangalacharan? Right? That's how we start our prayer. So Lord Shiva starts with purification of Mangalacharan of the senses and praying to the devatas, the different material elements. Then he presents the beautiful form of Lord Krishna, and then he says, how can we attain this? How can we see this beautiful form of Krishna? Is through Bhakti Yoga, and then Bhakti Yoga is attainable through devotional, through devotees. Right? That's how it will nicely flow. So we will read from here, which is this book, Bhagavata Pravaha. So here he says, yeah, this is the song of the Supreme Vaishnava. So this is what it is. So here it says, Prutu's son was Vijit Sava, whose son was Avirdhana. one of the 6 sons of Havirdhana, the eldest was Prachina Barhi. He married Shrutadruti and begot 10 sons named Prachetas. So this is what we have seen. King Prachina Barhi ordered the Prachetas to beget children. And then to purify themselves before entering married life, the Prachetas went to the forest to perform austerities. When they arrived at a serene lake in the forest, they saw the mystic appearance of Lord Shiva. Compassionate Shiva, knowing this, knowing their intentions, told the Prachetas. So this is what we have seen, how Lord Shiva appeared. Anyone who is surrendered to Lord Vasudev is as dear to me as Lord himself. See, this is what the intention of Lord Shiva. We see here, the devotees are very dear to Lord Shiva. Even like the Lord himself, right? He likes the devotees a lot. The devotees too consider me as dear to them as the Lord himself. Lord Shiva then taught the Prachetas a song called Rudra Gita. So this is what we have been seeing so far. And then those who worship Lord Krishna get all blessings, support and guidance from even the demigods and sages. Okay. So here it's saying, in Rudra Gita, so now we are getting into the contents of Rudra Gita. Lord Shiva first offered prayers to Chaturvyuha, the quadruple expansion of Krishna, namely Vasudeva, Shankarshana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. So these 4 quadruple expansions are the presiding deities of Antakarna. What are the Antakarnas? Antakarnas are consciousness, ego, intelligence, and mind. So he's offering prayers. So to these 4 second quadruple expansion, we can say Vasudev, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, who maintain the gross and subtle elements of this universe. They are the presiding deities of our consciousness, ego, intelligence, and the mind. So the presiding deity of mind is Aniruddha. Intelligence is Pradyumna. Ego is Shankarshana. Consciousness is Vasudeva. So this is important part. So we can sometimes we see Lord Shiva maintains false ego. False ego means Lord Shiva is the kind of he does the destruction part. He takes care of that service for the Supreme Lord. So the main source is Shankarshana. Lord Shiva also is getting his power of false ego from Sankarshana. The mind is Aniruddha, but sometimes we say Chandra also controls the mind, right? That's why we say something like lunatic or something, right? It is mind is related to Chandra, but he gets his source from Aniruddha. And we see one example here. So he's offering his prayers, so that Prabhuji writes a nice point here. He wants to pivot, she's saying here. Shiva prayed to them to pivot the Antakarana towards Bhakti. So where does this Antakarana reside? Anybody, any idea? This Antakarana, like these parts, where does these reside in the body?
Since they're subtle, I do not know. I never heard they have a specific location for this.
Yeah. In this chapter, it is given, Prabhu. And many places it is. Yeah, we'll see. Yes, I just wanted just for us to, to think. I was asking this question. So this one we'll see. Where does it reside? Let me remember which verse. There's a verse here in this chapter. These Antakarnas reside in the heart. These are all there. That's why many times we say, where is mind? Mind is in the heart. So that's why we say, clean our heart, chant from your heart. Right? All these subtle elements are there in the heart. So I'll see which verse it is, but many places it is given. Now next time when we go and read, right, we will find it. So
Yeah.
here is saying, yes, Prabhu. Now we will see many places it is there. That's what we see, right? When including myself, when we read 2 or 3 times, that's why we see more description given, or we'll capture more points. Right? So here he's offering these prayers. See, Lord Shiva prayed to them to pivot the antakarna towards bhakti, which is their real purpose. Next, Lord Shiva offered prayers to the deities of the material elements and to Lord Krishna, who is the source of all these deities. So he is offered to the different, we can say, Devi Devatas, but he understands their source is Lord Krishna. So he offered his prayers to these antakarna, the subtle elements and the gross elements of this universe, so that they can be pivoted towards the bhakti. And then Lord Shiva gives them, beautiful description of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He mixes between Vishnu and Lord Krishna, but he gives a beautiful description. And sometimes, they give like that, so that when we devotees read, we understand the beauty of Vishnu, and we understand the beauty of Lord Krishna. So it is given in a mixed way. Right? When we read, when we expand our consciousness, when we understand the Supreme Lord, when we become more focused, we can differentiate whom Lord Shiva is talking about, describing one beautiful form or describing another beautiful form of Lord Krishna, right? Like that. So then if you see here, then he moves on to the next part. So yeah, this is the second part, right? Lord Shiva then further described the unparalleled beauty of the Lord in his four-handed form of Vishnu. And then he says, Shiva then glorified Bhakti Yoga, the devotees of Krishna, and prayed for the association of pure devotees. You see, Shiva also is anchoring for the association of pure devotees. So he is saying how he glorified Bhakti and how Bhakti can be attainable. Krishna is obtainable by Bhakti alone. Such Bhakti is the rarest achievement. One who desires heaven or temporary pleasures cannot worship Krishna, while a sincere devotee who worships Krishna cannot be affected by the force of invincible time. So a lot of description about time is given in this chapter. How time impacts in two ways. Time takes a devotee closer to Krishna. How time takes a person, right, who is beyond material sense gratification towards death, towards next life, towards like a snake ready to pounce on somebody, right, like that. So its detailed description is given, so that why don't you take this form which is more relishable, than why are you going this route which is deadly? That kind of comparison Lord Shiva gives. When you see the form of Krishna, when you see the form of Vishnu, all senses are get pleased. We'll see that verse. So like that, so many beautiful verses we see, like from 33 to 68 something, almost 35-40 verses. Beautiful description of the purification process, the beauty of the Lord, how bhakti is supreme, how Vaishnava association is important. If we are not doing this, then we'll see here, right? Even a moment's association of such devotee cannot be compared to heaven or even liberation from material bondage. A devotee's heart, which is purified by bhakti, is not agitated by material objects. Blessed by Bhakti Devi, such a devotee understands the Lord's name, fame, form, and activities. So they are on the same platform as the Supreme Lord. They can understand the Lord's activities. That's why sometimes we don't understand the pastimes, like say especially Balram ji or Nityananda Prabhu, right? We don't understand their pastimes because we are not we are not there yet. We are being agitated by material objects, right? We have to come out and come closer to the Lord. And then he says, at the end, he says, like, when we are not in the path of bhakti, when we are on the other side, we have so many troubles. That's what he says. Lord Shiva further described how Krishna expands as Mahavishnu for the purpose of material creation through his Maya. He also describes the time future of the Lord. You see, he describes the time future of the Lord. He says how this time is so intelligent, so cunning. It just takes away, right? Like it takes away, like a wind moves clouds, right, which are heavy, and we can't see the wind, but this time is like that. So here we see, having thus instructed the prachetas, Lord Shiva departed, and the prachetas meditated on the instruction of their Guru Shiva. They applied themselves to the method and message of their Guru with great dedication. They chanted Rudra Gita for 10,000 years under the water. Like that, they followed the instructions of their Guru. And Prabhupada ji writes, why they have meditated under the water. How can a human being, may be under the water, right? That can be our one gross material question. He writes in the purport, what is the problem when, there are so many beings in the water, right? So the great personalities who have this mystic Shaktis, they can without any without any difficulty, they can be in the water. So I'm trying to find that Prabhupada ji writes that statement in the purports, one of the purports. What's the problem when many species can be in the water? Why not prachetas can meditate in the water? Right, like that he writes. So this is a high level summary of this 24th chapter, the song sung by Lord Shiva, in which we see the Rudra Gita, which is the prayer that the Lord Shiva gets it from Brahma, and he passes on to his disciples, the Prachetas. Right? So this is what the summary, but I know I didn't do the justice of not going through the verses, right? Which has a very beautiful explanation of the Supreme Lord. If you see one of these, he says here, the Lord's beauty resembles a dark cloud during the rainy season. As the rainfall glistens, his bodily features are also glisten. Right? Indeed, he is sum total of all beauty. The Lord's beauty is sum total of all beauty in the nature, and only one beautiful thing is given. Right, about rain. When rain comes after the hot summer, Prabhupada writes in the purport how people want to go and just enjoy the rain, and so many pleasurable things happens during the rain. The Lord is described as the sum of all beauty, Sarva Saundarya Sangrahamam. Right, Sarva Saundarya Sangraham. Like that, he describes very nicely the beauty of the Lord. And many verses, and we know Prabhupada ji takes full this one and describes so long purports. This I saw, I read. Good thing is at least to present we have to read through. So I had to read through and make some notes, and I just presented a brief summary of this chapter. If anybody has any questions, comments, any discussion points, we can see. Hare Krishna. Dhanavat Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhanvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for such a nice class. As usual, very interactive session. You make us go through all the translations and the purport, and also Subodhini to understand the chapter very nicely, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. I've learned so many new things today. Thank you. Very grateful to you.
Hare Krishna Mata. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhu. Wonderful class, Prabhu. Especially I like the way how you study in detail, and you shared some of those with us now. Thank you, Prabhuji. Yes. And also I like the how you described how the sections of prayers, how it went through from description of the Lord's form, and then how we get that vision of the Lord like that. How can we see that only through bhakti, and then how that does bhakti come through association of devotees like that. It's a nice overview, Prabhu. Thank you for sharing, Prabhu.
Yeah, no problem, Prabhu. I'll bring this this one. I'll share. I was reading and I took it from Gauranga Darshan Prabhu. He has this summary of these three chapters, 22, 23, and 24. And in 1 hour he summarized. So you will definitely enjoy it. If you get a chance, you can. I'll ping in the chat. You can definitely review. And he was going through in deep
Angraham Char.
about the beauty of the Lord. Okay, so I'll just ping in the chat. Save it, and review it. It's very nice. I'm pinging here.
Sure, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
So we can end here, Mataji. Then?
Yes, Prabhuji, definitely. We can end the call here. Thank you, dear devotees, for joining us for the summary session. वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय, हिज ग्रेस सुरेश श्याम प्रभु जी की जय।